Hey guys, it's Will from Tested. I'm here at America's Test Kitchen with Dan Souza, who's one of the America's Test Kitchen cooks, and you're going to talk to me today about kale.
Kale.
And more importantly, the science of how to make kale, a little more palatable, I guess?
Exactly. Yep, so kale is really popular nowadays, and especially in raw applications. You see a lot of people making kale salads, and there's a technique that's kind of come about which is called massaging kale, which sounds ridiculous, but what the idea is that you're tenderizing it a little bit because kale is a relatively hardy brassica vegetable. So you massage it a little bit, and then you can go ahead and make your salad, and it doesn't take quite as long to chew.
I've never massaged my greens before, but I'm ready to try.
I know,
so.
Kale was when it kind of came around for the first time. So a technique that I use to massage the kale and to tenderize it is actually putting it in a Ziploc bag, and then using a rolling pin on top of it.
Okay.
So it's a thin layer, and you bruise a lot of the vegetable. So you tenderize it in that way.
And the idea is just to kind of break down the thick, stalky bits?
Yes, exactly. But one interesting thing about kale is, like many brassica vegetables and cruciferous vegetables, the more you damage them, the more you damage the cells, the more of these compounds come out, and they're activated by enzymes that turn into the bitter and pungent compounds that we taste.
Okay.
So what we find is a lot of people tend to overdress kale salad because they're trying to compensate for that bitterness. So we wanted to find a way here in the test kitchen to get rid of the bitterness before you dress it. So you can dress it as you would a normal salad.
Okay, so you don't have those kind of sad, overdressed, wilted kale salads.
Exactly.
You want something that still has the crispness and a lot of the flavor, but isn't bitter and unpleasant.
Exactly, something a little bit milder that we can really dress normally.
Okay, and this is also kind of how you guys test. This is representative of how you test food when you're preparing new recipes and new techniques and stuff like that as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So we really break it down to the basics. We look at current recipes that are out there. We see what people are doing. We taste about 5 of them here in the test kitchen to figure out what we like, what we don't like, and then we start off on our testing. And we don't really leave any variable untouched. So for a kale salad, we would definitely be doing this kind of process. But I'm working on this specifically for our next food science book, which is the Science of Good Food, and it's a follow-up to our Science of Good Cooking book.
So you guys sent me a copy of the Science of Good Cooking a couple years ago. Absolutely loved it. It's really informative and helps you understand why things are happening instead of just what to do and how to make your food taste better.
Exactly.
Which I thought was really, really fantastic.
Exactly. So we're taking the same approach but to ingredients so that we can figure out the best way to handle different ingredients. So kale, brown rice, flank steak. We're going to cover 50 of them, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
okay.
I have here in front of me 4 samples. I have a control here, which is simply kale that I've washed and cut up. Then I have A through C, and they've been treated in different ways to help try and minimize the pungency and bitterness. So I just wanted to have you kind of taste through and see if you can tell any differences.
Any particular order? Or?
Why don't you start with the control so you have kind of a baseline of what good old raw kale tastes like.
That tastes like kale. There's a strong bitter aftertaste after you chomp it a little bit.
Yep. So these 3 samples have all been massaged and then soaked in different solutions to see if we can mitigate some of that bitterness.
Okay, so I'm going to go with A now. And you know what these are, so it's not double blind, but that's okay for our purposes.
Yes, for this purposes.
So A is a lot less bitter. There's not the big hit, like 4 chomps in, where you get the big hit of bitter. And it just is a pleasant kale flavor. It tastes kind of like a salad that I've let sit for a while.
Yep.
Maybe in some dressing. But I'm not getting any oil or vinegar or anything on that. So.
No, so these are still totally plain.
Okay.
You thought maybe you'd come in and taste brownies or something nice. No, just raw, unseasoned.
I'm from California. I'm totally into kale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right,
this is superfood.
This is what you guys eat for breakfast.
Yeah, I just put this in a juicer, and it's 3 of these a day, and that's all you need.
That's all you need. California sounds great.
Okay, so this is B. This is a little. I'm gonna try another bite of this. There's something interesting at the beginning. It's not like an acid flavor, but it's And then I do get the normal kale flavor at the end. Still a lot of chewing though.
Still a lot of chewing. Yep.
I'm gonna go for one more bite on this. I feel like I'm being tested. But the bitter, there's a little tiny hint of bitter, again, like 3 or 4 bites in.
Yep.
Which is, I guess, to be expected with kale.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit we expect, and some of that's nice to balance. We're going to add salt, we're going to add oil, so a little bit of balance. But we're still looking for drastic differences between that and the control.
And one of the things you want when you're making a dish is you want to have a combination of flavors in addition to smells and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. Yep, that's right.
Okay, so this is C. I'm going to grab a big mouthful here. And this is a milder but kind of longer bitter. It started earlier in the chomp and went further toward the end. It's kind of more toward the back of my mouth. It's a little bit of an odd texture on my tongue, though.
You're getting a little bit of a weird texture. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so you want the
So how'd I do,
the
Dan?
big reveal? You did fine. So at this point in the process, we're still figuring out a lot of stuff. So there's no right or wrong answer. Later on in the process, there's totally going to be a right or wrong answer.
Okay.
But so after these are massaged, I'm soaking them in different solutions. A is just in plain water. Now you'll notice this is also cut up pretty finely. When you're cutting something in your mouth, you're releasing and activating all those enzymes right then in your mouth, so you're getting the full impact. What we're trying to do is have that come out a little bit earlier on, so that we can then either dilute it or convert it.
Okay.
And so here I just have it soaked in water. I pull it out.
So it's kind of leaching some of the
So
stuff
it's
out.
leaching some of it out. And then in B and C, I'm changing the pH of the solution. So in
Okay.
B, I'm using a little bit of lemon juice. I think you picked up on a little of that acid flavor. So I'm using some lemon juice to bring it down to around 4 on the pH scale. And then in C, I'm using baking soda to bring it up to roughly 8 on the pH scale.
And how are you measuring pH? Are you just calculating what the pH should be and putting the amount of baking soda or?
So we do that, but we also have an ion meter here that we
Okay.
use to actually measure pH.
There's actual food science happening here.
There's actual food
every day.
science. Yes, absolutely, every day. And so we're finding some interesting things that it seems as though there's a kind of a bell curve to pH and its effect on the specific enzymes in kale. And so at very low pH, we find that the bitterness falls off a little bit, and then at really high pH, it falls off. And it seems to be working at its optimum level in the kind of, roughly 6 to 6.5 range. So right now we're playing with, which one of these might be a better option, and is there a way to incorporate it into just the processing that you're naturally doing? Like if you're going to be tossing it in an acidic vinaigrette,
Right.
maybe that's fine. If we find that this is a lot better, maybe it needs a pre-soak.
So maybe dress your greens with a little bit of lemon juice before you
Or,
make your salad.
or even while you're doing the rolling and massaging process, maybe we'd incorporate lemon juice into there so that it's having an immediate impact on it.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Dan. I didn't expect to learn so much about kale today, but it's a pleasant surprise, especially in wintry Boston. So,
You need it here, it's hardy.
It is. It's good for you. There's good minerals and vitamins and all that stuff in there. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for stopping by.
And you can find more about America's Test Kitchen at americastestkitchen.com or visit us on YouTube at tested.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel. See you guys soon.